Welcome back for Calculus 3.1. I'll call this part B to finish these notes. Hopefully I can finish. Because now we're asking you to find the equation of the tangent line. So don't forget the equation of the tangent line. You need the point and the slope. Well, they give you part of the point. They give you the t value as pi over 6. But what you need to figure out is the y value. So before doing any work, and I'll change colors to do this, make sure you figure out what g of pi over 6 is, which is pi over 6 squared, just square each piece, times cosine of pi over 6. Well, that seems kind of ugly, but we can figure that out because on the unit circle, pi over 6 is the ordered pair, root 3 over 2, 1/2. We'll probably need that in a second anyway. So cosine is the x-coordinate, so root 3 over 2. Oh my goodness, this is an ugly value. But that's okay, we'll still get it. So pi squared times root 3 over 2, well you can multiply that 2 by 36, so 72. So that's just the y value in this problem. Let me switch back to that other. And to find the slope, remember the slope is the derivative at a point. So you're still going to plug in pi over 6, but you have to figure out what the slope is now. So what's the derivative of t? Well, that's the product rule. See the product right there. So you get 2t, that's the derivative of t squared, leave cosine of t alone, plus leave t squared alone. The derivative of cosine is negative sine. I just like to move that negative in front. So as I mentioned before, when you do g prime of pi over 6, you're probably going to need that value. So you're looking at 2 times pi over 6. And then the cosine of pi over 6 we already found earlier is root 3 over 2. And then minus, again, pi squared over 36, because you have to square each value. And then sine of that is just 1/2. So the slope at that point, you can reduce. I mean, you don't have to. You could factor if you really wanted to. But I'm going to write it as pi root 3 over 6 minus pi squared over 72. So make sure you understand where I got all those values. So let's finish this problem. Because remember, in the tangent line, you could write it as in point slope form. X minus your x-coordinate. So you could write it all out, but remember to write it to y equals, which is the preference. You just move this negative over by adding it. So right here is your slope, which we just found, pi root 3 over 6 minus pi squared over 72, x, whoops, I want to put that, x minus your x-coordinate, and then you have to add over your y-coordinate, pi squared root 3 over 72. Probably the ugliest answer you'll see in quite some time. I guess I should have mentioned, feel free to pause the video. I'm just excited to move on to the next problem, so feel free to pause at any point and write down anything you need to. Really soak it in, re-watch it again. There's nothing wrong with, taking a long time to learn something. Okay, so in this next problem, you just have two functions given to you as a graph. But then up here, you're given that p of x is defined as f of x times g of x. So in this problem, and then we also have r of x, which is also a quotient, product rule, because there's a multiplication in there. So what I would do, especially when I'm looking ahead and I'm seeing that we need the derivatives at certain values, I would start by figuring out what p prime of x is. Well, the product rule would say take the derivative of f, leave g of x alone, and then plus leave f of x alone times the derivative of g of x. So if you're told in this problem, we're going to find p prime of -4, well, that's telling you that you need f prime of negative 4 times leave g alone plus leave f alone, f of negative 4, times g prime of negative 4. Now, part of this they already told you. They already told you g of negative 4 equals 2. The next easiest part would probably be figuring out what f of negative 4 is. Well, if I look at f of negative 4, it's the y value right there, which looks like to me is negative 1. So we're replacing that. The next easiest is probably figuring out what g of negative 4 is. So if you look at it in your graph, 1, 2, 3, negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like 6. Double check that that's right, please. But now, how would you figure out f of negative 4? What does that actually mean? That means the slope of f at x equals negative 4. Well, if I'm looking at this correctly, it looks like it's a linear function going down 1, right 1. So I would just say that's negative 1 right there. So as you then finish this problem, you're looking at negative 6 minus 2. So p prime of negative 4 would just be negative 8. I hope that made sense. If not, pause the video, re-watch it, double check you understand. So let me change colors for R, because that's what's happening on the next problem. So you have a product rule. So 2x, leave g of x alone, and then plus leave x squared alone times g prime of x. So if they're asking you, well, this time they give you r prime of negative 2. But if I follow this, it means it's 2 times negative 2 times g of negative 2 plus negative 2 squared times g prime of negative 2. See how difficult these problems get? I mean, they're not that bad. Well, anyway, they tell you r prime of negative 2 is 20. You can then figure out, okay, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Well, what's g of negative 2? Well, as I looked at it, it looks like it's negative 3. I know it might not be perfect, but if it's not perfect, then you're going to get an ugly number. Negative 2 squared is 4, and we're trying to solve for g prime of negative 2. So as I do this, this would be 12. So let's subtract 12 over. So we're looking at 8 equals 4 times g prime of negative 2. Well, when you divide by 4, I just gave you the answer. You get 2. So again, pause the video. Soak this in. If you need to rewatch it, rewatch it. So as I move down to, I guess I should have done the next one like in a different order. But remember, if you're asked to find the equation of the tangent line, you need the point and the slope. Well, we just found the slope of p at negative 4. So we already found p prime of negative 4 in the problem. So remember, this is your slope. I write that right here. What we don't know is what p of negative 4 is. Well, how could we find that out? Don't overthink it. Back up here, we define p as the multiplication function. So you just have to figure out what f of negative 4 was, which we said was negative 1, and g of negative 4, which we said was 6. So what's negative 1 times 6? Negative 6. So then you can use point slope form, slope x minus your x coordinate. So y minus your y coordinate, your slope, x minus your x coordinate. But we don't want to leave our answer like that. We want to solve for y. You don't even have to distribute and combine like terms. You can just leave it like this. Whoops. Messed up with my box there. All right, and then this one over here, same thing, is you need the point and the slope. Well, they already gave you r prime of negative 2 was negative 20, right? No, positive 20. We just don't know what r of negative 2 is. But don't fret. you can just plug in -2 for your x's as it's defined up here. So remember, -2 squared was 4. And then g of -2 we said was -3. So it's 4 times -3, -12. So I'm going to skip a step. The slope, and then x minus your x-coordinate. And then, it would have been plus 12, but we're going to subtract 12 to the right side. That's what we want. Again, please pause the video, soak it in, make sure you understand. And the last part, I think I want to wait and make one more video.